Okay, so we're still using substitution, but in this case, we don't have an equation where it says y is equal to something, and that is something that we've had in everything up to this point. So for these problems, the first thing we have to do is solve an equation. I'm just going to abbreviate equation EQN for y. Okay, so when you solve an equation for y, you want it to be y equals some value. Okay, you want it to be y equals some expression here. I'm going to try to refocus that. Okay, so then you're going to plug the expression into the other equation for y. Again, as you continue with this, like you would be able to do it for x or y. I just think it's easier to pick one variable and stick with it when we're first learning it. So in example 1, let's find the y's here. So you have y plus 6x, and then you have 2y. Which one do you think is going to be easier to solve for? The one with y or the one with 2y? Yeah, the one with just the y in it. Okay, so find, let me see if this helps or not. Okay, so when you find the one with just the y, this is what we're going to solve for. Okay, so we have y plus 6x equals 11. Okay, and then do we have an idea of how to get y by itself? Do you guys remember? Yeah, you're going to move over the 6x. So this is just like getting it in the form y equals mx plus b. And if you are putting it in that form y equals mx plus b, you could just do negative 6x plus 11. Or you could write it as 11 minus 6x. But why can't I combine these two numbers together? Yeah, they're not like terms. One has an x, one does not. Okay? So once you have this, this is step 1. Okay? So step 1 is solve for y. For step 2, we're going to take the other equation and plug in, this is called an expression. Okay, so take your second equation, 3x plus 2y equals negative 5. I'm going to try to go slow so it's not too fast. Guys, if you're in here, you need to be writing your notes down with me. Okay, so we're not putting our heads down. Okay, and then once you have this, you're going to just plug in y. So in step 2, you're going to plug in for y. So yesterday we learned how to plug in an expression for y. Do you guys remember how we do that? So instead of y, what do I normally write in place of y? I just wrote it up there. What do I write to hold its place? The parentheses. So now what you're going to do is if y equals negative 6x plus 11, you're just going to plug that in here. Negative 6x plus 11. Okay, and then we just have to distribute. So we're going to multiply here and multiply here. Now when you do that, remember, the first part just drops down. So you have 3x still. 2 times negative 6x is negative 12x. 2 times 11 is 22. Okay, and then I want you to find the like terms. Yeah, if it's an emergency, yes. And then just put your device there for me. Okay, and then if you do negative 3x minus 12x, Gabe, will you calculate that and just tell me what you get when you're there? Do your calculator with me. Anybody needs a calculator, you can come trade me. 3, it'd be positive 3 minus 12. Or sorry, did you tell me what you got? Yeah, great. Negative 9x. Nice. Okay, and then Avery, when we get here, what are you thinking we do next? Yeah? Okay, so when you're putting this in your calculator, are you guys remembering to do the negative in front of 5? So it's negative 5 minus 22, like that. And I think what gets a little tricky is when you multiply two negatives, it becomes a positive. But if you have a negative and you're subtracting something, it stays negative. Okay, so it's like you're adding two negatives together. That's why it stays negative. Okay, and then, Joey, what's our last step to solve?
Divide it by 9.
Yep, divide by negative 9. So here we're dividing, and if we're dividing a negative by a negative, yes, that's correct. Oh yeah, sorry. I put in 3 because I knew that was the answer. I know. Good work. Okay, now once you know what x is, your last step is going to be to plug x in to find your y. So that's your last step. So we solve for y for one of the equations. Now we plug in for y. And the last step is to plug in x equals 3 to find y. Now technically, you can plug this in anywhere you want to. You can plug it in the first equation, you could plug it in the second equation, you could even plug it in here, but I like plugging it in one of the original equations, just in case I made a mistake somewhere here, I would be able to get that. This is going to give you exactly what y is. So you could do y equals negative 6x plus 11. And you could put that in your calculator all at one time. For some of you who are really good at your multiplication facts and you know that. You know that negative 6 times 3 is going to be negative 18 plus 11. Or if you want to put it all in at one time, you can. Okay? So just do what works better for you. If doing this out step by step helps you make less mistakes, that's exactly what I would do. Okay, so then your solution is always the x first and then the y. Alright, and then after you have that written down, I want you to look at these two equations. Write down the one that we are going to solve for y. So write down the one where you are going to solve for y. Okay, and then if we're trying to help somebody pick which equation if they're not sure, how can we tell them which one to look for? Yeah, look for the y that doesn't have any numbers in front of it. So with the first equation, you can see y is by itself. There's no number in front of it. So for step 1, we're going to move this negative x over. So if it's a negative x, we're going to add it to both sides, plus x plus x. So y equals, it's a positive x and a positive 4. Okay, and then when you get to step 2, I always like to write this equation first, the 3x minus 2y, and instead of y, you can just write the parentheses. I'm going to give you a minute to do the substitution and then the distributive property. Okay, so I want you to do that and then we'll check it together, okay? So here is our distribution. A negative 2 times x and a negative 2 times positive 4 is going to be negative 8. I always like to underline the ones that have the like terms in it. So 3x minus 2x is going to be x. And then we're going to add 8 to both sides. Okay, now again, the signs are going to be important. So when you do negative 7 plus 8, okay, so once you combine your like terms, you get x minus 8. You add 8 to both sides. When you're checking this, just make sure you do the negative and the positive to get 1. And then your last step, if y equals x plus 4, you're just going to plug in 1. Okay, now for C, I want you to pick which one you think we want to solve for. I'm going to help you with this one just because there's one small difference there. All right, so which one do you guys think for part C? Yes, we're going to do the bottom one. Do you guys see what's a little bit different about that one though? Yes, the y has a negative. So there's 2 different ways that we can do this. Okay, the first way is to do exactly what we did before, where we're going to move the x over. So we would subtract x. And then you have a negative y equals negative x plus 5. And then how would I make the y positive? Yep. And then when you divide by negative 1, you have to divide both of these by negative 1. So when you divide by a negative 1, all it does is changes the signs. So instead of a negative x, you have a positive x. Instead of a positive 5, you have a negative 5. Yeah, I'd love to hear it. Yep. Yes, so that is the other way. So Joey's saying the first thing he did, because that was negative, he just moved it to the other side. But then we need y by itself, so we have to subtract the 5. So x minus 5, again, equals y. It's just that the y would be on the other side. But you can do either one of those. Yeah, that's awesome. Good work there. Okay, so either way, when you go to step 2, you're going to have y is equal to x minus 5, so that's what we're going to plug in, okay? So in step 2, again, remember, when I write this out, the only thing I do is I put parentheses in for y. And then whatever y is equal to, so in this case it's x minus 5, that's what we're going to plug in. Okay, so then when you distribute, this term here just drops straight down. 2 times x is positive 2x. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. And then anytime you have more than one x term, we add them together. Okay, any just single number has a 1 in front, so we have 3x minus 10. Okay, and then we're going to add 10 to both sides. What's negative 1 plus 10? Negative 1 plus 10 is the same thing as 10 minus 1. What's that? 9. Yep. And I really did try to make these so that they turn out to be nice numbers for you guys to deal with. Because there are some where you would get fractions, but I really did try to take those ones off so we could just focus on the process here. Okay, so then if y equals x minus 5 and x is 3, 3 minus 5, you have $3, but something costs $5. How many dollars short are you? 2. Okay, so then your solution is going to be 3, negative 2.